Hello everyone. This video is to serve as an example of how you are going to do your Flipgrid video. Only when you do Flipgrid, I hope that I get to see your lovely face. So I'm just going to talk as if I am presenting my nonfiction text features project on Flipgrid today. So I have my book and I have my poster, and I would just kind of present to you what I learned from this beekeeping book. So it might start something like this. My book that I chose for the nonfiction text features project was Hooray for Beekeeping. And when I read through this book, I decided to choose the section Why Bees Build Combs for my first main idea. So why bees build combs? Bees build combs to store honey and pollen. That was the main idea of that text. Two supporting details of that are combs are made of cells, and cells are small storage areas. Cells slant upwards so that whatever the bees put in will not fall out. The second section that I read was titled Beekeeping Tools, and the main idea of that section was that beekeepers need special tools to help them do their jobs safely. Two supporting details: smokers spray smoke into the hives to calm the bees so they don't sting. Beekeepers wear broad-rimmed hats with nets to keep bees out of their hair, mouth, eyes, and ears. The bold words that I chose for my poster are colony. A colony is a large group of bees that live together. And I knew that bees live together in a group, but I didn't know that that group was called a colony. The second word that I chose was drone. A drone is a male bee. I knew that there was the queen bee, who was the female, and that there were worker bees, but I didn't know that the male bees were specifically called drone bees. So that was something new that I learned. My next word was pollen, a yellow powdery substance found inside of flowers. And I already knew what pollen was, but there were not a lot of bold words to choose from in my book. So I decided to still list pollen as one of the new words from the text. An apiary is a bee farm, and I didn't actually know that they had bee farms. I knew that people could have bees at their homes and that they occurred out in nature, but I didn't know that apiaries or bee farms were becoming so popular. And the last word that I chose was comb cell, a small storage area for honey or pollen. And I knew, again, that bees made honeycombs, but I didn't realize that each little hexagon inside of the honeycomb was called a comb cell. For my photos and captions section, I chose to draw a photo of a smoker. So this moves open and shut and creates like wind or air, which makes the smoke come up through this smoker and out this hole here, and it kind of stuns the bees so that they don't sting the beekeepers when the beekeepers are working with them. And the caption from this picture that was in the book says a beekeeper sprays smoke into a hive to calm the bees. For my sticky notes section, I chose to write my sticky notes for all of my text features rather than to stick them in the book and show them that way. So my book did have a table of contents on page 3, which is a list of chapters or sections given at the front of a book. And when I read through the table of contents in my book, I realized that there were a lot of different topics about bees. So not only just about bees themselves, but how they pollinate, bees at work, apiaries, beekeeping tools, collecting honey, and even why do bees sting. So I learned that there were lots of different topics in my table of contents. On page 9 of my book, I found a label, and a label is a name or phrase given to something that gives information. So on page 9 of my book, there was this great diagram, which is another text feature that my book had, and then there were all these labels like legs, wax gland, stinger, abdomen, wing, and thorax. So those were all labels for different parts of the bee's body. And I did not know that bees actually have a special wax gland right here, and they use this wax gland to produce a wax that covers up the little cells inside of the honeycomb so that the honey doesn't come out. So that was something new that I learned. Also on page 9 was the diagram that I just showed you of the bee. And a diagram is a drawing that shows the appearance, structure, or workings of something. And so again, I have this diagram of the bee's body. And the last text feature for my book was bold words, and these are words that are darker than the rest of the sentence. They're used to signal important information or new words. I didn't have a lot of bold words to pick from, but on these 2 pages you can see a couple examples. Here's the word cells, and I learned about all these little tiny comb cells, and then wax gland, which was a bee body part that I did not know about. Okay, so that was the very quick version of what I am expecting when you do your Flipgrid video. You're just presenting your poster, which by now has all of your information. It's colorful, it's organized, and it's easy to read. You've got 2 main ideas. You have bold words, you drew a photo and included the caption. You're telling me what you learned from all these different text features in your book. What did you learn from these bold words? Don't just read the definition. Tell me what you learned from it. The picture that you chose to draw from your book. Why did you choose that picture? What did that picture teach you about the topic that's in your book? And same with sticky notes. Whether you write them out like I did, or whether you just stick them in your book like this and open up and show them in your video. Tell me what you learned from that text feature. Okay? And then when you have your video that you're happy with, you can do it as many times as you need to. When you have one that you're happy with, you'll just submit it for the final grade on Flipgrid.